I don't wanna be born. I don't wanna be half-assed. I don't want you all to see when I think I'll slap my head on you. I don't wanna be a chrome dome. I'll let you call me the Monopoly Man. I think I've shaved back too far here for any of my hair systems to fit me. So for example, if I take an existing hairpiece and I line this front bit up with the top of the top nub of my forehead right there, and you can see where the balding has begun right there, this one little hair there. Having the hairpiece start right there would be the right spot. But it needs to reach all the way back to there. I don't think it does. This isn't wet, but to give you a rough idea, I'll just place that bit right up exactly where it's supposed to go. There. That's where my forehead would begin if I wasn't bald. And now that has to go all the way back to there, which almost makes it, but not quite. And also with these bits around the back edge here, potentially I've shaved back there too much. Now this is the hairpiece that has the side V-loops, the horizontal V-loops. So I need to change it because I was hoping to do a brush back look for one of the videotapes I'm doing for my class. I could always choose not to do a brush back look. But then again, I'm flying overseas, well not overseas, I'm flying to see my relatives in Sydney soon, so it'd be nice to have a hairpiece that I trust and like and don't have to worry about it. So I've got this entire box load of all these other hairs, because I've been just talking in the comments to some people about when I'm gonna finally cut back further so I have less of a lump here. In terms of cutting all the way back and going over there, that's out of the question. I'm not going to be doing that. What I consider doing is shaving into here further back, which means my entire box load, which is this many old hairs that I intend to clean and one day use again, would now just fall short and be useless to me. But I have this constant baldiness going on back in here that needs to really be covered because it's too thinned out. But I'm not sure how bad thinning out actually is. If I do that there, or if I do that there, or if I do that there, I think there's going to be some white or see-through bits all the way back. So I might as well leave it where it is. I don't know. And the thing is, if I go too far to the sides here, like if I go all the way to there so that a hairpiece can be combed to the right, for example, all the way across, then there's going to be a line of visible join where the glue and their hairpiece ends and the perimeter of the natural hair begins. So that means it'll constantly be exposed. So I'm thinking this thicket can be brushed in over the join at all times if I have this sort of section. If we take an existing lace hairpiece here, for example, that hasn't been cut, I could cut in two hairpieces that size and that size, but I don't want to include that center bit where all the hairs are changing directions, because those hairpieces can never really be brushed in any way I've figured out yet. It's basically like, well, having a look at that actually, that's more towards the back half than the front. So that could constitute one of the halves, which means that would appear here or something, maybe just there when all the hairs start going in both directions. It's fraught with danger to start cutting away. I'm too tired to want to do that gigantic job now. But let's just take a measurement here of the width and, so there's a cloth measuring tape. So I think my temples are 6 inches apart. So that's about 18 centimeters, which equals, 7. It's more like 7 right there, the bottom tip. Maybe I've gone too far in. Maybe 6.5. I think 6.5 inches wide. Now if I go from the top of the top nub with my forehead ends and go back, it's currently, the hair pieces should be 3 inches deep, which equals about 7.5, is that 7.5 centimeters? Now if I look at this, it needs to be 7.5 centimeters too, otherwise we know it's too short, right? Yeah, it's just 6.9, so I'm sure falling short by about 0.5 centimeter, which is, say from 2 to 2. So there's that size gap everywhere, unless I stretch it from the back to the front or the front to the back. For me, it's easier to stretch, leave that bit posted down and then pull it to the front, because it's hard for me to ever see back there. It's easier for me to see the front in the mirror. That's why I always glue at the back first and then make the front land. In discussions with these people who were in the comments, so I have no visibility of where the camera is on this phone because it's black against black. Okay, there you go. Okay, they said the reason people don't care so much about where it lands exactly on the back line is because people who do full hairpiece coverings, they just let their beard gap back there and flop all that excess hair back over whatever gap they've got and keep it covered. I'd be totally paranoid if that was the method I'd been using. I always talk about perimeter gap, and anyone who's using a full hairpiece has been ignoring that advice and how to do that. It's the most paramount, important part of the whole hairpiece thing. Making that gap there, the perimeter, with making the hairpiece not overhang onto the hairs, or no gap between where the perimeter ends on the natural hairs and the beginning of your hairpiece. But people who have no visibility on the back of the head, they're simply lining it up. I didn't really understand this. They've simply been lining up the front here, so the hairline's correct first. Then they just, try like this, right? They're lining up the front like this, making sure that's all nice, and then just flopping that back over, and they don't give a shit about this gap here where the perimeter lands, and they just make sure that that hair's long enough to flop over. So if you ever go for a swim or something, that would suck. I would hate to have to do that. By the way, here's something I just bought. This is a shower mirror. That's what you look like. This shower mirror is designed for shaving. It's an anti-fog sort of plastic thing, so it still gives me good reflection. If you look at the back of my head, it's really light, and if I drop it, I don't think it would smash or anything, because I think it's made out of plastic, but they've got some sort of silver lining in there or something. So it's really nice, a nice size compared to something like this that I've been using. Right? This was $25 because it's anti-fog, I guess, and it's safe in the shower, and it just hangs on 2 prongs that just glued up onto my shower. I put the prongs on this side facing this light and this sun window so that my face can be lit, because I understand that mirrors require a light source. I was hoping that this would come with lights around the outside, but it didn't. So I'm not ready to go and do a full cap, like going all the way around. I would only go a bit deeper, but not today. So this is a new hairpiece that I haven't used yet. And I'm not sure if you noticed, but I'm sort of running out of pre-cut hairpieces. I've got a few lace hairpieces lying around. You can see how much the front has been bleached on this one compared to the lace piece. But I'm pretty sure that the lace piece here has got really unbleached knots. So, and I did try to bleach them for a long time. That doesn't look too bad there, but if I put it down on the porcelain, there are chunks where it's quite dark. I'll get back to you after I've made my decision. I haven't exactly washed my scalp since I took the last hairpiece off, so there's probably some residual glue up here that will get caught in the razor blade. I think there might be a little chunk right there. Maybe not. Okay. It's a brand new razor. Hot water. Now this hairband is not enough to stop the razor blade and glue and stuff from going up into the hair. So I use my finger here like this, but this might have been the reason why it's crept back. Does that look symmetrical to you? Does that look like it's cut back there the same amount as it's been cut back there? It's hard to really gauge because I'm getting a lot of like exposed gappage up here when I put the hair pieces on. But I'd say that area is balding anyway and it eventually needs to be cut away and the hairpiece needs to be made bigger. So I'm shaving along the perimeter first because that's the only part that needs aiming. All this other stuff at the front can just be shaved off without having to worry about cutting off any hairs. So given that I'm going to put on a hairpiece now, I could put the old horizontal one back on, even though I've taken off the reason of thinking it's not quite right. Because I can never do brush back look or anything, but it would just allow me to easily just stick something back on my head right now and not have to worry about it. I still have to peel off the glue, but I wouldn't have to give myself a haircut. And it's kind of an easy, tempting thing to do right now. Either way, whatever I choose, whichever hairpiece I have to put on my head, whether it's lace or poly, there will still need to be glue up here. So I'm just going to wipe this down with a wet baby wipe. Make sure there's no stubble lying around anywhere. Now I might as well spray water in my hair as well to get it all back and out of the way. I don't want any flyaway hairs to fall into the glue. Checking for any hair strands that might have got caught in there, in the hairband. And just to make sure it's actually clean, spray some alcohol onto my scalp. Now I've got an old bottle of Ultra Hold here. It's light, mostly empty, and the viscosity is very thick. And also the brush does not quite reach the glue. The brush doesn't quite reach. A little bit. But look at that, see how that can go all the way over there without dripping. That's not fresh glue. Fresh glue would be dripping, drip, 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 drip all the way onto the floor. So that's thick. It might still have some kind of working life to it. Here's what people say you're supposed to do when this happens. If you've got old glue like that, it's acrylic glue, not water-based glue. So in this case, you can spray alcohol inside and then shake it up. I find this makes it kind of cloudy, and I'm not sure if I put enough in or too little in. And I'll leave that overnight and see what it's like. Well, in a couple of weeks, next time I use it. This stuff is newer. You can tell because there's not glue all around the outside there. You can see that would easily, you'd see it's not, I'm not going to do what I just did with the other one because it just dripped straight onto my hand and all over the floor and all over the floor mat and the sink. So that's nice, fresh acrylic glue. And then I'm going to paint around the perimeter, or glue around the perimeter. Now, of course, the hair piece is going to come down to the top nub of my forehead, but I'm not going to paint the glue down that far because I'm going to paint it directly onto the poly, which is probably going to be my choice of hairpiece today. If I chose to do lace, I would have to glue all the way down to the very top nub of my forehead and hope that the hairpiece lands exactly. And in all my years of doing that, it has never landed exactly. You either need to peel it back a bit and re-glue it more, or you've glued too far, which is the ultimate pain in the ass. Because then you've got to get that glue off the top of your forehead, because it's going to get all dirty, a big line all the way along your front hairline for the duration of the entire time you ever wear the hairpiece. Lace is really an inconvenient solution compared to poly. Poly is 100 times easier to deal with. So once again, I'm gluing down to about 1.5 centimeters before I know the hairpiece is gonna land. So the hairpiece will land there, just above the top nub of my top forehead nub, and I've glued to there. So that's how much glue I'll be placing all around on the actual hairpiece base, in the case of poly. In the case of lace, you can't do that. Like I say, in the case of poly, you have to kind of either draw a line or put, comb dots to show where you should glue inside, but you're always 1 millimeter or 2 off, which is a lot with the front hairline. That needs to be perfect. And perfection is easily achieved with a hairpiece like poly, where you can glue onto the base directly. Also, I've glued some hairs in here around the perimeter. Don't try and get it out while it's still wet. In about 15-20 minutes, when it dries, I'll spray some alcohol onto these inadvertently glued in hairs, and I'll just get them out using the Lord Hair comb, and then clear that area up so that they're not underneath the hairpiece. It's always difficult around the perimeter because your hairs are not like a straight line that you can just glue inside. They're sticking in like that. Now, do you put some glue in those little gaps there? Do you leave a bit of a gap there between the hairs and where the glue lands? Or do you try and get right up on the edge and just risk getting those hairs glued in like in these spots? If there's not enough, it's a hell of a job to try and pull back the hair piece from above and try to glue in those parts, and I've done it 100 times. I don't like doing it though, so in the preparation now, it's best that I get it right. Look at this, I've got tomato and avocado on toast. It's really gonna be good. They're my new 2 pairs of reading glasses, my first ever prescription pairs. I might show them after. This is a used hairpiece which I felt was too short, but at least the hairs are going from front to back. The V-lips, I mean, they're not going side to side. Like this one, which I'm probably going to throw away. The glue has dried at this point, so I can just spray something in there and then comb that out. But before I eat this breakfast, I've got to choose which hairpiece I want to wet and prepare. That's a new one. In fact, that could be my last new hairpiece that doesn't have the numbers stuck to it. So that's these are all pre-cut, but they're lace, and I think the bases were not able to be bleached properly for some reason. They're 1, 2, 3, 4 new hair pieces, but I can't be bothered cutting them out because when I do that, I'm probably going to resize those stencils to make it all bigger and change the guard. So that one's possibility, but I like my hair being a bit longer at the front now. That's too short to brush back. It suits my current hair length, but I want it to be long like that, so I can do more with it. So this is the last one before I've got to start cutting, or at least using those again. Maybe after I've used this one and those ones, I can shift over to lace, because it is winter after all. And if I do use lace during winter, there's not going to be that whole glue shine thing coming through. There are problems in summer for all the hair pieces. in summertime the glue is shiny with the lace, and so the glue shines through. And with poly it gets hot, but it's not as bad for me as it is for people who have to wear a fuller piece with poly. Poly hides the glue completely. So in winter it's probably better to wear, in summer it's probably better to wear poly. And you can probably get away with wearing lace in summer. But lace in winter, I mean, because you won't see through to the glue shine. Lace has got some benefits, but not as many as poly. Poly's got more benefits. Lace, for example, blends more nicely with the perimeter without having to worry about too much of a gap problem. Because lace kind of becomes a bit organic looking where it touches, whereas poly is just some sort of straight line. I think today I'll just want to check this. Yeah, those knots are unacceptably unbleached, and there was nothing I could do about them. Look how dark that is there. Ridiculous. See, it lightens up towards the back a bit, but not really. I get the feeling that a lot of these lace pieces are like that. Yeah, look how dark that is. It's unusable. That's more acceptable there, but still very dark. That's probably acceptable at the front of the back. Yeah, that's the back of the hairpiece. That's the front hairline right there. I'll try this lace hairpiece. That means I've got to glue all the way to where I think it's going to land. All the way down to there. I'll try this lace piece again. First lace piece I'll have tried for a very long time. But I just want to remember what it's like to use. Okay, so I've wet the lace piece here. And I've hung it up to dry, and I brushed it away from the middle that way and that way, and then I flicked all the excess water in the shower, and then when I put it on I'm going to have to make sure there are no protruding hairs coming out of the back. And I get this suspicion from memory that this will be a lot easier to line up with the perimeter because you can see right through it. So in preparation for the lace, I guess I can do this now and eat later. I'm just going to get these hairs that you can see here out of the glue zone. I'd say this lace hairpiece is French lace with medium density as opposed to medium light density. I'll give you a quick comparison between the lace and the poly hairpieces. And I think in both cases of poly and lace, I think I can leave the front section here completely glue free until I fold down the last part. That hair is holding itself back, so I won't need to put that in at the moment. so this is French lace, colour number 5, medium dark brown, from lordhair.com. Okay. That's feeling very light. That feels heavier than this, even though there's less hair on this, and it's dry. So if I wet this, that would definitely be heavier than this lace. Okay, so I'm going to try and grab from the two sides like that and line up the middle. I can tell from the shape of it that that is the front and the other part here is the back. But when I make the new stencil, I'll probably make it symmetrical. So I'll probably duplicate that shape of my forehead back here, so that if I want the hairs to be naturally going towards the front, I can, and if I really want to, I can make it naturally default to going backwards. With hair this length as it stands, that's kind of imperceptible, but it becomes clearer later on when it's short. Now there are little hairs protruding out all over the place around the top and edges and stuff, so I've got to make sure they don't fall in. And it's been a long time since I've used lace. I'll grab both sides like that. Try to line up. It's very light. It's really light and obedient. Okay. Okay, so a few hairs have already come out there. It's not that it's broken, it's just that if the hair's sticking through the netting, it'll attach itself to the glue. Like if this hairpiece was dry right now, there's no way I'd be able to do it. Okay. A bit more alcohol. I think with lace, it's better to grab the two temple edges and jiggle it into position like that, so I can feel where they land a bit better. It really is quite helpful to be able to see through it compared to the poly. So placing it is a lot easier than poly. I can even see all the way around the edges here for a much more accurate perimeter placement. Can't tell what's happening at the front really, but I will in a second. But I'm gonna commit to it by brushing it in. Now just remember the front has not been glued. Oh, it's not really dry there. So I have to wait for that alcohol to evaporate before I can really brush it back nicely, because I put quite a lot of alcohol. So it should be dry within about 60 seconds. Dry enough, I mean, to brush. And the first thing I'm going to do when I brush this back is check that the front hairline is straight. Lots of hairs coming out here with the lace. Not necessarily falling out. It's just kind of expected with lace, I think, for hairs to fall out like that. With the V-loops, that hardly ever happens. Might lose one hair. You lose about 8 hairs in the placement of a lace piece. I'm just pulling this out of my brush. I haven't cleaned the brush for a while. If your brush is really filled up with hairs, the fastest way to get them all out is to just brush the brush with a brush. Brush the brush with a brush. Or a comb, you do that. But it's kind of empty. I've cleaned it. Okay, so that feels really light. Like this, I can't feel at all. I thought I couldn't feel anything with poly, but with lace, it's even lighter again. So it's landed exactly where I've glued to. It looks like I've got some overhang on this side. I've gone too far this side. But that doesn't feel like it's dropped too far short there. So when I add glue to that area here, I'll show you with a comb where I need it to really land. Above the top knob of the forehead. It's hard to tell. Where's that little, oh, I've shaved it off. I can't tell if that's the top knob of the forehead or if that is. I reckon that is. I'm going to mark that with the prongs of this comb here to mark the front center of where I need it to land. And we've fallen short, as you can see there. Fallen short. So the hairpiece is going to be too high, the forehead's going to be too large. And pulling this off is actually proving to be quite difficult. So I want to lift it up and get more slack so I can stretch it down. Oh shit, I forgot. Yeah, you can't get glue through the lace at all. It's not lenient like that, so that's a disadvantage straight away with the lace. And stretching it also makes it quite corrugated. Well, the thing is, I think this hairpiece was placed nicely back here. I can't feel any bumps or anything. I think it's perfect actually back here, which means that, you know, I could blame the fact that I didn't cut the hair to the right size, but I think really what's happened is I've been a bit too liberal with shaving back each time I go to shave stubble off my forehead, and I've actually made the shave zone bigger than what I had already planned with the cutting out of the hair pieces and matching the stencils. So I fucked up by shaving back too far, which means none of the hair pieces I've cut out at the moment will ever work. Which means that the hairpiece is going to land about there. And there's nothing I can really do about it. But it feels nice. I'm encouraged by this activity to give lace a better go, especially in winter time. There's no sweat in winter time. I was just thinking, okay, now I just need to glue the last bit onto the hairpiece, but I can't. I've got to glue onto the forehead and kind of guess where it's going to land based on a little bit of inaccuracy. So the way to do that is to kind of just look at how far you think it is away. This is part of the stitching to make the dome stay in place, all that stitching, which is totally annoying. So now it's got the stitching's all been removed, which is good. Okay, so I'm gonna, now this takes a lot more accuracy than I'm used to. I'm gonna glue where I think it will land and not exceed that. Using this fat brush. Okay, I'll start here so I've got more lenience. Oh, and I can't let any of that glue touch the lace, which is another pain in the ass thing. I think I've already come down further than the, shit, this is such a, yeah, going back to lace is a disadvantage in many ways. I'm going to have to wipe some of this glue off the top of my forehead at the end of this. So I'm just making sure I'm getting all the excess off. Just leaving a little bit on the edge of the brush when I do this, because accuracy is very important with lace. You really don't want any glue to get into that lace at all. Because the result is a glued, clumped together hair chunk in your hair system that almost isn't worth even trying to remove. Like C22 penetrates through it all, right? And you've got to probably take the whole hairpiece off and start again if that happens. I've got these wet wipes, but they will not properly remove any excess where I've gone beyond the landing area. So by day 2, like tomorrow, if I, or even third day, whatever, any kind of excess glue around the front area will turn into a big black line of just dust and glue. But I must say, applying it around the perimeter was really good. And we'll see when I wet it and brush it and check it, how accurate that was. As for this front section here, I think it's gonna land too high. I've glued to that spot right there. And I think it needed to go to about there. So, and without cutting a new hairpiece completely, I won't be able to make the distance. But it's really, for me, it's more important that the perimeter is covered completely. There's no gaps here, because here at least, I can sort of brush over the front if I need to. But if it's for television or something, I can't. So I'd have to start again and make a proper one that actually fits. Or just stop shaving all this stuff back away. That's gonna be another problem. I need kind of 2 hands to shave the top of my head. If I go back further, which I've been discussing with you, it's gonna be harder and harder to shave that nicely without encroaching on the forest behind it. I just want to test something. Oh no, I can't test it. I thought maybe with the new iPhone 10, this is iPhone XR, I could switch between front and rear cameras while I was filming, but there are no options on the screen. All right, so I've let this dry for, well, 2 hours probably, an hour and a half. I only needed about 15 minutes, I suppose, but should be done. You saw I wiped off that, but there will be residue. And even now that I think I've lined it up, I'm always going to be wrong. I'm going to put it down, then I'm going to have to do this again. Okay. So we'll just, and look how many hairs come out with lace when you pull it off. Which makes me feel it's a little bit more organic, so potentially more realistic looking than poly. And it's actually quite thin, thinner than I remember. So I'm just pressing that down into the glue. And I just remembered something, I'm not supposed to get this wet for 24 hours, but I was hoping to have a shower. All right, well, it's hard to tell with how bleached the knots are and everything in this state. Looks like there was too much glue put down on that edge over there. A little bit on the edge, not too bad. So if I'm not supposed to get it wet for 24 hours, how do I wet it so that I can brush it back and continue my work? I don't think it's going to penetrate into the glue too badly and wreck it. There's no other way, you've got to make your hair wet to brush it. This line here, the perimeter, is brushing as if it's my own hair. There's no lump at all. With the poly, it feels like maybe there is a bit of a lump there all the time, but I'm not quite. And also, I didn't have to bleach the front hairs on this to create the natural look, because there are no V-loops in a lace hairpiece, they're knots. And so long as those knots are bleached, you don't need to bleach the front hairs. And these knots on this particular hairpiece don't seem too bad. So just feeling this, I can brush from the forehead all the way up. The same way as I felt like I could do with the original poly pieces, but today this lace seems really good. Don't forget, despite all the last 100 or so videos that I've done exclusively with poly, I started with lace. So I'm just going back to it. I don't know how long for, this might be the only one, but like I've shown you, I've run out of poly. I mean, I haven't really. I've got another hair piece, and I think there's maybe 2 hair pieces remaining. So I still am in the same situation, but I've got a lot of lace pieces sitting there, 4 full ones. And usually that would equal 3 per hair piece, but if I'm going to make it bigger, it'll be 2 per hair piece. But if this works out, I might be able to just cut that extra bit there that I think I've missed. I don't even know if that's too high. It could be the right. Is that the top nub of the forehead, or is it there? That seems a little bit too low there. So maybe this is the right forehead size. It's hard to tell. Okay, so just looking along the front hairline to see where glue needs to be put in at the last minute. I see this bit here and this length here. Now the brush on the Ultra Hold is too big for that, so I'm going to use one of these cotton tips. I'm going to have to use the table because I haven't got 3 hands. Okay, I'm just peeling that all. Okay, I've peeled all that back there. It's easier. So I'm just dipping the brush back in and then painting the tip, the cotton tip. This area at the front hairline, the middle of the front hairline, is the most sacred of all the positions on your hairpiece. If anything's going to look fake that matters, it'll be this bit right here. So you don't want too much glue. You don't want the glue penetrating through the lace, that's for sure. And you don't want too little glue either. The fact that I could just pull that off so easily demonstrates that there was too little glue. I feel like I'm wiping it off. I feel like the cotton is actually working as a sponge to remove the glue on each second pass. Get the hairs off your fingers. just a little bit more. Yeah, so unlike with poly, this whole thing is a lot less accurate. Hairs are sticking to my fingers and getting caught all over the place. So this is a lot messier than using poly, but potentially more realistic, so long as the glue doesn't shine through. And it is winter, so I won't be sweating and melting the glue. And anything I thought of in terms of creating little chimneys in the poly is now a problem solved, because there are little chimneys throughout the entire lace piece, because it's not a big sheet of plastic blocking my pores. So let's hope that it's enough glue and that it hasn't gone too far down into my forehead, because cleanup's painful with that. So I'll leave that to dry for 15 minutes, and for safety, I'll stop any hairs falling into the glue with this hairband. And I'll come back and I'll cut it. I didn't speak. I'm doing an online acting course, and my teacher, who's very high up in the Australian film industry, let's just say he's the highest, he says I come across as aggressive as a default kind of state, and I need to find the charm, the energy, the humour. He cited Will Smith, Robert Downey Jr., these sort of people as having a lightness of touch. You didn't fucking think that, do you? So in my next take, I'm gonna have to be nice. Let's see how this thing dried out. It's so lightweight and thin. I'm almost tempted to say that this is Swiss lace, but I think it's actually French lace. It's just really light, and I can go like that from my forehead to my hairline without any bump. And also back here, there's a slight bump, but much less than the poly. It doesn't feel like there's an overlap or a gap, but I guess there would be no real lump if there was a gap. With the overlap, you can feel the overlap for sure, but I just hope there are no gaps back here. Let's have a quick look. It's really hard to see them at this point. Feels pretty good. Not sure if that forehead is too high. There will have to be some cleanup along this front hairline, especially as the dust gathers into the glue over the next day or so, which will be a pain in the ass. And also, when you get out of the shower, if you've had a fairly long or warm shower, it the glue expands and then sinks back down after an hour or so. Straight after the shower, you're sort of tempted to pick away at all the glue, so I'll have to remember not to do that for the next 4 or 5 weeks as I wear this. Okay, so I'm going to spray this with water and brush it forward and cut it. Okay, so I want to try to do as many layers as I can. I think I could fit maybe 6 layers here, and the layers towards the front seem a little bit more important than the layers at the back, but still I'll try and space it out so I get 6 layers. And I'll try and do diagonal snipping rather than straight across snipping, where I can. Now I was told that you're not supposed to snip below the fingers, but sometimes it's just a bit harder. I don't know where these scissors came from, but they're not opening and closing easily, so I'll go back to these. I did see some hairdressing scissors when I went to my mum's place in a drawer that were not being used. I could have just taken them and I put them in my fingers, and there's just no way to get a nice angle because the holes are so small. They're much smaller than these ones. It just feels nicer when cutting this way. I don't know what it's like when you're cutting somebody else's hair, whether or not those other ones give you more tightness of control, squeezing your fingers in there and your knuckles kind of lock in the fingers. I don't know if that would be better or not, but I think it's different to cut your own hair. The angle you need to have your fingers on, like I would probably cut with a different sort of grip if I was cutting forwards on somebody else's hair. But for me, it just seems easier to have these kind of paper scissors. The big ones with the big handles, and there's just a gigantic length of a blade, like that long blade, that seems really difficult to use. You can't get fine accuracy with the big ones. Okay, so this is layer 2. Layer 3. Oh. Not getting any hairs. It's really important to cut diagonal like I've been doing instead of straight across, because I don't know how it works, but the hairs seem to land on each other nicely. When they're diagonal, it's sort of just, they can flop over together. But if they're straight, they kind of sort of just stick up and then it doesn't work as well. This is layer 4. there seems to be a real difference, just the way it's falling right now. I know it's wet, but it doesn't want to stand up as much with these particular knots as it did with the V-loops. It just really feels lightweight and really streamlined to my head. All this lace, it feels really good. How are the gaps up there? Are there any gaps on that line of the perimeter? I'll leave it brushed back. I'll let it dry and then I'll come back in maybe half an hour or so and probably put some mark in it. And then I might get busy filming my scene for this week. I think it might be just a tiny bit too high. Let's see. Okay, so it's been a couple of hours. My hair's completely dry. Hair's really long here on both sides. And this hair here goes to the bottom of my eyes. Or if you sit in a South African accent, it goes to the bottom of my arse. So it could be a bit too buffy over that side. Not sure. So let's see what happens when I put some hair gel in it. Good thing to note just now, with nothing in it, it's not sticking up here at the transition point. I'll see if I can see what you guys see in real time with this shower mirror, which I love. Okay, so I'm now able to see this side of my face with the mirror. There's a real flat area here, isn't there, on the back of my head? Or I suppose all that is going to be kind of going bald eventually. Sometimes I feel that there is kind of a bald spot. If worst comes to worst, I'll use some Topic in there. Just trying to lean all the way back to see what that transition looks like at the perimeter, right on there. So when your hair's dry, it's got the most amount of coverage. Once you start putting hair product in, you're making your scalp shiny so that it can shine through, and also creating clumps of hair that sort of open up and let you see into the scalp whereas before you wouldn't have, because it's all like this. Love that hook system. So I've got this mirror hanging in my shower facing that way because the lights are there and also the sunlight would come from there. So when looking at yourself in the mirror, you would be well lit. Okay. So that's just plastic, and that hangs on that hook there, which is actually designed to hang a razor there so that you can shave in the shower, which is the reason I bought it. So I shave more often. So the problem is when you shave your face is cold and your stubble becomes harder again after you get out of the shower. So it's better to shave while your face is hot, and trying to put stuff on the sink which gets all mess all over the floor and everything. It's easier in the shower because it just doesn't matter what gets wet and messy because it's just showered off. So with the, I'll put all the hair pieces away now. With the poly hair piece, you need to bleach along the front perimeter here so that the V-loops, they disappear. But with lace, this piece here, for example, there are no V-loops. It's knots. So long as they're bleached, the knots, then you shouldn't see anything like V-loops because the hairs look like they're sort of just coming right out of the scalp. A tiny bit lower, it would have been good, this hairpiece. And like I say, I probably have some residual glue along here. And when you push with your finger to try and get it off, which really balls it up and makes it come off, it sort of ruins the entire front. So I'll try to devise a new method. Potentially I'll be using some C22 spray along the front perimeter, which will destroy the hold all along the perimeter as well. And then I'll have to re-glue the front neater next time. But I think I'm close enough to bullseye in the places I glued. Alright, so I said I'd use some muck, and I will. The oil could work too. So the thing with muck is it makes your hair clump together, whereas the oil kind of lets it stay in its natural landing area. But yeah, muck allows you to style it, and that stuff just lets it sit and hang nicely. So given my hair length, and I do want it to sort of hang over my forehead and everything, I think it's a good idea to let the hair sort of hang. And that makes it look kind of clean and real. And this looks like you've done something to try and make yourself prettier. Am I not pretty enough? Is my heart's not something? I put that stuff in my hands and I wet my hands because otherwise it'll just stick. Now I have a real feeling of solid hold with this glue right now. So much so that I would bet $100 that it wouldn't lift at all if I went skydiving. As is right now. Now that I've brushed it right back and got it right out of the way, it seems like I can see now that the hairpiece goes up on an angle to the right more. So the forehead is really quite large. I'd say that would have been the altitude it should have been done at. And it's got a good length at the front, having landed just below the eyes there. So much that I can keep that length long enough that I can sort of do the brush back look if need to. This stuff now will not let me have very good control over my natural looking hair anymore. It's just gonna be clumped together, as you can see in those bits there. And but it'll still look fairly good. I mean, but in the same way that you know, any sort of hair product that's visible would look good. The ultimate in healthy, smooth looking hair is probably just using that oil. And it's nice to see that darkness coming out of my front hairline again, rather than that blonde bleach stuff that I had over the front of all my poly units. With this muck stuff, I think it's best to kind of let it kind of get exposed to air for a little while before you can sort of fluff it forward more and start doing stuff with it. I mean, there's got to be a way to just put it in position from the first moment, but yeah, I'm gonna wait for a little bit, because in my experience, as the day progresses, it sort of melts with your hair heat and all that sort of stuff, and allows you to have better control. So that's what it looks like right now. And I'll come back after I've watched a few of these Actors Roundtable videos from the Hollywood Reporter on YouTube, which I'm really enjoying and learning from. And think about my scene a bit, maybe run some lines, but I hate having to do that sort of homework, but I have to. Hey Siri. Okay guys, I just pressed the record button before I was even ready to talk, which is what I always do, really. And so for my next scene, I'm probably going to try to play the role. It's just audition scenes where you get to sort of take control of the audition and make interesting choices and so on. I've got to get away from acting aggressive or predatory, which are the words he used to describe my default sort of mood that reads on the camera. He said that this is the guy, he cast Russell Crowe in his first 6 movies. And he said the women, female casting directors in Australia, they really tend not to like testosterone at all. So I've got to really have a more charming, energetic, and humorous disposition to win those kind of people over, which is why Australian television sucks, perhaps. Because they're like, hey, nice to see you, and they're never like brooding, which is the cool stuff you love. When you watch Heat and you see Robert De Niro versus who's the guy he speaks to in that conversation? The other Italian guy. Why can't I remember his name? Damn you for saying it's say hello to my little friend. That guy. What's his name? It's right on the tip of my tongue. Robert De Niro, and you know the name, don't you? It's annoying me now. Is it Robert? No, it's... Tell me through the camera. I'll think of it later. It's not De Niro, but I think it has a 2-part surname, like De Niro does. At any rate, this next character I'm going to be playing, it's just a guy at the park in a rom-com, and he's watching his kids in the playground, and I've been directed by this guy. He sends me tapes, recordings, analysing the work I did from each week. And so he said, I was putting some horses over here, and then I was putting my reader, the other character I was speaking to, right there. And he said, no, you've got to put them on the opposite side of the camera, so it's a bigger leap. It's a more pronounced discrepancy. At any rate, this character doesn't say anything about who he is or what he does or anything. He's just got some kids on the playground, jumping castle or whatever it is. And so what I want to do is show off my new glasses. It's irrelevant to the character, but I've thought that maybe I should act as somebody who's kind of famous, and she's all nervous around me, because it suits her role to be behaving like that in such an awkward way. She says sorry like 30 times in a 3-page script. So it would make sense that she's daunted by my presence, not just because she's attracted to me and this is a rom-com scene, but also because I'm one of the untouchable royalty celebrities. So this is Polo Ralph Lauren. These are my least favorite of the two glasses. One, because they're heavy, and two, because they rattle, and three, because they fall off my face when I lean forward. So listen, I don't want that noise. These are the nose knobs. This is for reading, but it makes a huge difference to me in terms of focus. But the funny thing is, I walked around the shopping center the other day with these things on, and for some reason it makes the ground further away from me. So it's like, whoa, I've got to step up a step every time I look down. Okay, so these are the first glasses. So just to get rid of these flyaways here, it does have length and weight to it, but the muck actually gives it some more standing strength, unfortunately. What you can do in this situation, of course, is use hairspray. But I think the best thing really to do is to either wear a hat for a little while so the heat goes through and sort of melts the muck, or just wait for a while and just keep rubbing down on it like this. They're not sunglasses from Celebrity, but they're reading glasses, and they kind of give I'm not on acting duty at the moment kind of vibe, perhaps. And I haven't done the scene yet, so I might change my character after a couple of takes and I'll watch them back. I go, no, that's not working. But I'll see. So I'll put the children's playground over there maybe, and then she'll be over here. But he's also said he wants us to use the frame, which is from here to here, and there, and there. Okay? So this is my space. To own the space, it gives the audience more of a draw when I move in like this, especially in a certain line. And also I've got to basically, to make the scene, the self-tape work more effectively, is act like I would in real life, which is basically what he wants us to learn. And I've got to put this into practice. I'm having a conversation with her, but I'm not looking directly at her. So I talk about the playground, and then there's some bully in the playground. And I say, I reckon that kid will be doing 5 to life by year 7. And then later on she's like, sorry, I'm sorry. It's like, sometimes these things fall into my head. Because she says, I said, yeah, actually one of the guys, he was an amputee, he did the entire Kokoda Trail on one leg. So that was pretty inspiring. And she said, 1 leg? That sounds hilarious. I said, well, yes, it was an amputee thing, so a lot of them do it. And so potentially I could use that kind of effectively. Anyway, I'm just telling you stuff that you don't need to know. So that hair, I'm regretting kind of not using oil instead of muck now. Because you get these very definite flyaways, whereas they would have sort of melded into the rest of my hair if I hadn't have used muck. Okay, so which glass did you prefer? These are the Polo Ralph Lauren glasses. This is something I get used to as well. I've got to put them away in the case each time so they don't get scratched up or dirty. I find that quite annoying. And these ones are Ray-Bans. They're not easy to just place down and pick up at each time. You really got to put them in the stupid cases. It's annoying. Only cases kind of. So these ones were recommended to me by about 6 of the ladies who worked at the glasses place. Yeah, I've really got to do something about that on the edges. I can't have that sticking out. I might end up having to cut this hair And the edges here. So these ones are more of a caterpillars over the eyebrows, a little bit of a thicker eyebrow kind of appearance. But they said it's just the right amount of quirkiness to make you look cool. And looking around the room, everything's a lot clearer. It almost makes the light grey numbers on this ruler become sort of darker grey to me when I put them on. And it does magnify them. It's a weird sensation when I look down. And I think it's possible to walk around with them but not drive. I think it's a bit dangerous to... Alright, so the way I see it with the hair products, you've got 4 choices. 1, natural, don't put anything in it. Unacceptable with a hairpiece, you got to put something in it. The minimum to keep it natural and flowing as it would if it was your own hair and young hair is probably this stuff. Some sort of oil. It smells really good, argan oil. It feels like it's nearly empty, but the bottle's actually still up to there. Muck or something similar to clay like that, which gives you some styling options even after it's in your hair, so you can still kind of move it, especially if you sort of spray a little bit with some water. I'm not going to do that now because I don't want the glasses to get dirty. Every time you touch them, it's like a fingerprint just stays there. You've got to wipe them clean every time. It's a bit of a pain in the ass. So that's 2, 3. And then the last one is something really solid where your hair is just completely put into position and you spray it with hairspray. This hairspray advertises that you can sort of just brush it out. I don't see really any benefit to that. I think the one benefit might be that if you can brush it out, it's not going to leave like dandruff looking particles all over your black clothes. And there's this stuff which is standard hairspray, extra hold, and that's not advertised to be brush outable at all. So in my mind, I looked more like a celebrity than I do right here in the mirror. And it's probably because my hair's so messy. I might have to put up with the glasses. Brush it a bit better. I'll try the brush back look. And this glue's holding really strong as well. I'll probably avoid having a shower tonight so that I can let it set for 24 hours, or bond as they say. If my hair is going to be brushed back like this, muck is not the thing that I should have put in there. It should have probably been oil or just water and then hairspray. But then you want some lift as well, because that's kind of geeky not to have some sort of lift at the front. The front hairline is a bit messy, but not as messy as it's going to be tomorrow. You want to get those hairs that are sort of sitting on the edge out of the way. But I am glad that this hair is eyeball, bottom of the eyeball sort of length, so I can have more styling options. I might have to get rid of these outside bits though. And this transition here, there is a feeling of a tiny bump, but hardly anything. It feels really dry at the back compared to the front, but that's probably just because I've sprayed water in the front of the hair. Now I don't really know if I look like a dad when I've got black on. Maybe I should be wearing red and blue, sort of child-friendly colours, and yellow and stuff like that. Like black is leaning more towards predatory and brooding and aggressive than colourful shirt, isn't it? I think that piece has to go diagonal. Okay guys, it's been about an hour and a half. I've just mixed some of this with some of this, and it's quite nice. And this has been about an hour and a half of drying. It's quite useful to me, given these videos that we share together. I'm just looking at the top of my head, and that joint is quite invisible. Just looking at the bald spot in the back. So a lot of problems with my hairpiece have stemmed from this perimeter joint, where the hairpiece meets the perimeter of where I shave back my natural hair. This is lace. I think it's French lace. All the hairs were flowing in one direction. They don't do the V-loops with the lace, so they can't V-loop in one direction or another, not so simply tied in. And if you're above a certain length, I specified 1.5 inches. That's probably, I've got this tape measure on. So that's touching my scalp. Yeah, I was going to say 2. It's about 2 inches there, right along the back, which equals, what's that, 5 centimeters? So 5 centimeters or 2 inches gives me a nice length of weight without having to stick up. All this hair's back here on my natural hairs. I've got very curly hair, as you probably know, and this is dead straight, basically. Letting the heat of my head kind of melt this muck makes it look like it's sort of falling flatter and is a bit more controllable, and it's dried as well. And looks like I've got dead straight hair at the front. The hairline is slightly too high and it's slightly on an angle, going up that way slightly. Not too bad, it's just like 3 millimeters too high probably, maybe 6. But it's not an unbelievable hairpiece, is it? I know what it looks like from the sides and everything, but it looks kind of real when I look in that mirror there. The energy, humor and charm that I could have once expressed on a good day when I was wide awake. By the way, exercise the day before helps you feel more awake the day after. So I might go on the treadmill tonight. The elliptical. What I could have done to make this sort of look cleaner and more natural, instead of using the muck, I could have used the oil instead. And I would say probably the oil is probably going to give you the cleaner feel and look to the hair. And you don't look like a grease monkey, you look kind of okay with it. It's not completely greasy, even though it is oil. I just put a bit on my hand and just rub together and put through. That would have probably been preferable. And nicer to do quick, breezy adjustments. And muck, which generally separates the hairs, dries out and reacts with the air, I think, more than with the heat of my head, to start off separated and completely weird looking. Just I haven't been doing this the whole time. I've been sitting down on the phone to my cousin for the last few hours, hour and a half, whatever it is. But it's sort of dried out, so it doesn't look as bad as it did when I first put it on. So after an hour of putting on muck, it dries out to look more like this. Matte finish, and the hair is all weighted because all the way through it's got particles of muck in it, so it gives some weight to it. So really what you're trying to do when you put any product in is kind of just weigh the hair down and give it some sort of sense of stay the fuck where you are. Now on a television show, the makeup artist will probably want to brush your hair all back and stuff, and that's going to fuck it all up. And then what they'll do then is just put hairspray and stuff through it, because they want you to have some volume, right? And they want to brush it back and reveal your face and your hairline. I've been in a couple of TV shows with a hairpiece, and I have to tell, I can see the makeup artist reaching forward to just fucking rip straight through from the forehead back. I say, hey, let me just speak to you for a second, just privately. I'm wearing a hairpiece, so just be gentle. But, oh, thanks for telling me, and just kind of, right. This stuff is Tresemme Expert Collection Perfectly Undone Ultra Brushable Hairspray. So a television hairstyle is coiffed back. That bit's unacceptable, obviously. You're running 5. Shit. Okay. That would be unacceptable. They probably want to chop that off. Here we brush it in. So right now I'm just really trying to replicate how they would coif the hair to have some volume up. How they'd brush it neatly so it flows in similar directions. And then place the hairspray over the top of all of it so there's not a hair out of place. And the key here is volume. The keys here are volume and hairspray without making it look like you're wearing hairspray. So I'm starting with the back of the neck because I know that's where I would forget the most in the sideburns. Okay, you're good to go. Thanks. To be or not to be, that is the question. I don't even know the line after that. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. I don't know the words. That's what you look like. I recommend this. It's quite handy. And I think if I dropped it, the plastic might break in half, but there's not going to be any shattering of glass. You can put it in the shower and you can shave in the shower when you're all done like that. So this is the sort of neatness that would go for on television show. I don't think I look the best like this. I think I look better when there's some sort of waviness. But that's neat for them, right? They want the neatness. So examine the hairline as you wish. This is lace, French lace, medium density. Number 5 on the Lord Hair color chart. I think it's a little bit too high. and I would never wear it like this by choice. But they'd put this hairstyle on me, then go, see you later, go on hair. But I don't think it suits me. It's neat. But like I said, I don't think it suits me. Here are the Ray-Bans. I can kind of see bits of stubble, or is that glue right there? Maybe I should always do this with the glasses on. I can actually see what's going on right along the front hairline very clearly. But the knots seem to be bleached enough that they don't look unrealistic. Just make sure those hairs that are sticking in the glue along the front are plucked out of the glue. There'll be more cleanup over the next couple of days as that glue collects dust. But I'll just be going with the brush forward look over the next few days. And I'll probably shoot my scene for acting class tomorrow. So I think oil might work for me in the future more than muck. So I can have that healthy looking hair that's hanging forward as a fringe. There's no need to clump all those hairs together and then rely on hairspray to freaking clump it all together. Could I unglue there and stretch forward and then let it go lower down? I tried, I couldn't. I must have shaved too much back here. Which means every hairpiece is now lifted back that extra distance. So be careful when you're shaving. Don't shave back beyond the stencil size, because your hairpieces are stencils. Same size as the stencil. The thing is though, when you do create the stencil, it's going to be the same size as what you traced around your head or whatever. Then you place it down on the hair, then you trace around that, so now it's wider a little bit where the perimeter has gone, we've drawn it with the marker or whatever you're using. And then you want to cut along the inside of that, so it's kind of the same size again, but sometimes you might over cut inside. You don't want any bits of black marker around the edge of your hairpiece, otherwise you'd see the black all around there, right? So you're cutting along the inside of the bit you've traced, and you've now made the hairpiece smaller than the stencil because you're trying to be safe. Ideally, you would either make a bigger stencil than you need, or you would use something like eyeliner to trace the cutout area so that you can cut directly along that line on the hairpiece and then wash it off, hopefully, before the glue hits it and it gets stuck in there. But the thing is, I found that to be problematic, washing that eyeliner all the way off the rims of the hairpiece. But it's probably a safer bet, unless I made a bigger stencil, in which case I would still have that leniency to cut it out smaller on the inside of the tracing. Anyway, I hope my lace hairpiece satisfies you, and these glasses are attractive enough for me to wear on all occasions. See, I've got a very plain face mode. So which do you prefer? Here's a final question. Do you prefer these ones with the dark 1960s kind of look to them over the eyebrows, like the caterpillar eyebrow ones, or these other ones which are kind of uniformly thick around the whole perimeter. Okay, so that's Polo Ralph Lauren. Polo Ralph Lauren or Ray-Ban. Polo Ralph Lauren, Ray-Ban. What do you think? Which do you prefer? I was actually just watching back the footage of everything I've done today for this one video. And I just realized, oh shit, I guess the audio must be coming through here right now. That's why I've got these things in my ears, by the way, because I was listening back to it. And I realized it's a bit pale at the front. The transition between this dark and this light skin is too much. So I'm going to transition my forehead down with Tan Airbrush in a Can by Model Co. That works. Fuck. These looked nice a second ago. How's the audio change when I take these things out of my ears? Is one of them an active microphone? Hello, testing, testing 1 2 2. What if I take this other one out? Testing 1 2 2 2 2. Is the audio still coming through there, or is it coming through there now? I've learned from experience. That you don't want the ears to gather all this tan up because they look weird if you don't clean them. This will make my pillow brown. I won't be putting my brand new Polo Ralph Lauren or my Ray-Bans on over this. And as you've probably seen in previous self-tanning videos that I've made, if you're not new to my channel, this stuff looks a lot different after you've had a shower. Looks really natural, it's really good. I love it. And chicks dig tanned men. Not that I've been on a prowl lately at all. But one of these days soon I'm gonna go hunting. Get this shit off your hands as well. I get the feeling when I post a video, when I get the likes and the dislikes, often there are trolls who come onto my channel and just start clicking dislike the moment they see it's released, before it's even possible for anyone to have even watched the video. And there's a dislike. There used to be a guy who used to come onto my channel and go, log in, dislike, log out. Log in as a different user, log out. Don't click dislike, just log out. And so there will be like 7. I hope that guy's not back. This stuff makes your teeth look whiter too, by the way. This is not even close to how much less tanned I'll look after a shower. It's just how you're gonna look before you go to bed. Then you leave it on for 7 hours or whatever, 3 hours, I don't know, probably minimum 3 hours. And then you can shower and wash it off. It won't look even close to this. It'll look just 1 or 2 shades darker than this, okay? But I can't prove that to you because I'm not going to wait and have a shower and then add that to this video. That's it. So this is the end of the video. I'm going to edit it for you. So be grateful that it's an edited video for a change. Okay.